Welcome to New Reality Awakening, where seekers become finders and stories become transformations. Each week we open the doorway to a new vibration, sharing wisdom, healing, and awakening from the visionaries of the New Reality TV platform. This is your gateway to raising your vibration and remembering who you truly are. This is where we remember that we are consciousness discovering itself. We are love awakening to love. We are New Reality Awakening.
Welcome to New Reality Awakening, the show where we go straight to the source. Each episode, we sit down with the creators behind New Reality TV to cut through the noise and get clear on three things: what they're putting into the world, why it actually matters right now, and how it connects to the bigger shifts happening in human consciousness. These are focused, no-fluff conversations, not origin myths, not guru speak, just real people doing meaningful work and the ideas behind it. If you're curious about where consciousness, culture, and personal responsibility intersect, you are in the right place. And we are thrilled today. We have a fantastic episode. Today, we have one of our incredible content creators, Lynsi Eastburn. She is the host of The Journey Within the Journeys. Lynsi, welcome to the show.
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I am thrilled to have you here, and I have so many questions, and we want to try to get to the meat of things right away. So before we really dive into the details, tell us, what is your show about?
Well, my show is called Journeys Within the Journey. What's it all about? So it's really talking to people and discovering what we're coming to conclude it is all about in our lives. We're all on these journeys, and I got to talking about that. I work with fertility clients, and they would say that they were just their infertility. And we're not. We're not just one of the things that's going on with us. And so that was the inspiration for the title. Was I had started to say, no, it's a journey within the journey. And then when the show showed up, it was like, this is perfect. Journeys within the journey. What's it all about?
I love that. And I was looking kind of through your show and how you describe it, and you have a line in there that just really struck me. And it said, "In the world where the pursuit of life's purpose often overshadows the beauty of the journey itself." And I think that is so key today. We have so much going on that we're so busy that we don't even realize kind of the life that we're living. And if we don't take a look, it's all going to slip away. So
Exactly.
I'm so glad that you're doing this show. What is it that impacted you to bring this particular show? What made you feel like, wow, we really need this right now?
Well, I work with these pink starlight babies. I started out with hypnofertility. I do a lot with spirit babies. And just to be absolutely out there, honest, they made me do it. The pink starlights were like, we need a show, we need a show, we need a show, a TV show, not a podcast. And I'm like, oh, just where am I going to get that? And about 3, 4 days later, New Reality came along.
Isn't it amazing how the universe just works its magical ways, right? So, who is this show for? Like, who are you hoping to help or to reach?
Well, it's for anyone, but I think really it's for, I like to call us light workers. And that doesn't mean we're working in the fields of healing arts necessarily, but we do carry light, all of us. And we're in a time right now where there's big changes happening, big transformation happening, and we need more light on the planet. And so, and people are starting to awaken in some form or another. And so that's what, by watching this show, you get to see. I interview different people. I do some of the techniques that I actually do to help people with their awakenings and finding purpose and realizing that there's more to life than this, what I call the 5 o'clock world. Work 9 to 5, come home, watch TV, do the dishes, cut the grass on Saturday. There's just so much more to it than that. So that's the goal of this show.
Wow, and I think I think it's just a great the feeling behind it. You can tell that you're very passionate about this. And you mentioned the pink starlights, and I want to find out all about them in a moment. But I want to talk a little bit about the infertility or the fertility kind of aspect of your show. How do you help people, women, families that are struggling with infertility?
So I do hypnosis, and I do have some other energy work that I do, but primarily hypnosis. And about 25 years or so ago, I had a general practice, and people started showing up in my office asking if I could help with infertility. And there wasn't anything out there that trained anyone in how to do that. But it made sense that we use the same methods that we use for people struggling with anxiety and different things like that, because all of the fertility people are struggling. And so I just started to work with them. And interestingly, babies started showing up. And one of the things people would say to me was, they told me I don't have a chance. That clinic won't work with me. They said it's impossible, but I feel like there's a baby there. And I always said, I believe you. And so I just started working from there. And the next thing I knew, I had a specialty, and it's just evolved ever since.
Wow. And have you, when people come and see you and you work with them, are they are they having more success in getting pregnant?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really funny because especially when I first started this, a lot of them were written off where they were told, you just have a 0% chance or, go home and figure out how to be childless.
Ah.
And it was terrible and devastating. And that's not necessarily true.
Mhm.
I look at infertility as a symptom, and it really seems to bring people to actually go within, just like this show is about to explore more. And if they just had their babies instantaneously, they might take them for granted or not really realize the other gifts that are part of life that is so much further beyond. We have purpose, we have gifts, and their gifts aren't necessarily, magical in the sense of working with, within the healing arts or anything, but we do carry a lot. We bring a lot
Mhm.
to this planet. And so I find that with the fertility struggles and often people have been on an arduous journey, it's an initiation.
Yeah.
It really is. It's initiations are not fun. They're not
No.
supposed to be. And they go through a lot, but then it brings them to, oh, let me look at hypnosis. Let me look at acupuncture. Let me look at Reiki. Let me look at something different and see what I can do, whereas they wouldn't have to otherwise.
Well, now I have to know. Pink starlights.
Pink starlights.
What are they?
Pink starlights. So you may have heard of crystal children or indigo children.
Ah.
They were kind of a thing, especially at one point in like the 80s. And there's really something to that. And this really comes, it's a lot about spirit babies.
Mhm.
Where are we before we're here? And I feel like, we are basically in spirit. I call it the between. And when we're here or we're there. And so it sort of became apparent with women saying, I feel like there's a baby there. I just know there's a baby there. And yes, these babies were showing up. And I did that for a long time. We're just working with the spirit babies, but not in any particular specific way. They were just part of the hypnosis and part of the work.
Mhm.
About 2016, these babies came through and said, oh, we are different. We want you to work with us specifically. We have our own purpose, different from the indigos, different from others. And we're called the Pink Starlights. And now we want you to get us out to the world. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, why not? And
Wow.
and it was funny because, I'm pretty left-brained, I guess you could say. I work within like the art and science of the work that I do, and then all of a sudden these babies are showing up like for me to see in my office, and I could always tune into them, but now I can see them,
Like
and I'm
like see them,
resisting
see
this.
them?
Yeah. Yeah,
Really?
they're in my office, they're floating around their mothers, and I'm sitting there going, "Well, I must be getting a migraine. This can't be possibly happening," and I was kind of really resistant to it for quite some time, and eventually I did share it with one of my clients, and it's not that I didn't believe in them or have that connection, but I wasn't expecting to be seeing them or having the communication on this level.
Well, yeah, so I was just gonna ask you, how do you, I guess, believe that these are actually something real? You're not just, haven't slept in a week or, going crazy.
Right.
Like, how did you know they were real?
I really believe me, I tried every possibility possible to say that, "Oh, it's this, it's that, it's whatever." I wasn't having these so-called migraines, I wasn't having them when I was not in my office with clients. And they just kept showing up, and then I would get a lot of information downloaded to
Mhm.
me, and I was knowing things that I had no way of knowing or shouldn't have been knowing.
Like what? Can you give us an
Uh,
example?
yeah, I mean, things about what they were doing, things about what was going on with their parents, things about
Oh.
I started getting information about the planet and about what's going on here, and I've seen it or heard it be validated by other people getting the same information, but I hadn't heard it outside of that. So they were really big on telling me I needed to get information out there for light workers. They needed their parents, especially their mothers, to open up differently, to align with them differently, that we really needed to shift into a more energetic phase, I guess you could say. And it was just things like that. And then I would connect with people and we would have all of these. It was almost as though we'd already met and then we hadn't, if that makes any sense. It's very hard to explain.
Yeah, I can imagine. So these pink starlights, so they're not like, because I think about spirit babies and I think, cute little babies, but these seem like very wise souls.
Exactly.
And they're talking more than just about their parents, it sounds like. They're talking about the state of the world and the energy.
Exactly, and they are. They do. I mean, I call them the pink starlights, I call them the babies, but yes, they are absolutely wise beings. They have their own purpose, which is specifically to help elevate the energies on the planet. They have a very high, high frequency love and light. They chose the name pink because of unconditional love and starlight because of the brilliance of starlight and of light. And so they want to get that across that that's what their specific purpose is. Now, everybody that comes through was a spirit baby at some point, and we have our reason to be on the planet, but they have their specific. It's very, very important. They're going to be, as they say, the people, which I
Right.
find funny because we are the people. But they're coming through to take over these areas where we've really been neglecting things. We've been We've not been kind to the planet. We've not been kind very much to each other. There's so much volatility that's going on that's all breaking down and it needs to. And they're bringing in hope as far as that goes too. And so the reason for them, I guess, coming through me with the fertility was I had, in a sense, a captive audience of people who were bringing babies in and that they could communicate there. And then it was like, okay, we need to expand because other people are going to be working with us. Other people need to understand us. And that's why they wanted the show.
Oh, so now I'm thinking they sound like they're these very incredible special beings. So do the pink starlights only go to certain people?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
wow, and then so these
They
people have
they
these
do.
babies.
They choose yeah, they choose their parents. So I always say my clients are well, they're not, the pink starlights are my clients. The parents just get to, make the appointments, pay the bill, whatever.
Like
But
regular
they
parents, right?
yeah, right, yeah. But they do choose their parents. Typically, their parents have been on a long journey. They do tend to anchor to the mom. The dads are not included, but particular or I tend to talk about the moms because that's who I'm usually working with, and that's where a lot of that is going on. And they're needing to elevate their energy so that so with indigo children, indigos came in and they had a hard time.
Mhm.
They had to overcome a lot because they had to break down barriers. So they're tough. They need to be able to fight. They, like I say, break down old paradigms. The pink starlights don't have time for that. They're coming in high, high frequency, love and light. They need parents that can be that container
Mhm.
that can hold that energy for them. So if your baby says, "Oh, I wanna go to yoga class," and they're 2 years old, and you're like, "You can't go to yoga class. You gotta go to mommy and me."
Mhm.
Or, the child is 5 and wants to go on some pilgrimage through India. And you don't say, that's ridiculous. You look at that, you don't necessarily let them go or have to take them immediately, but you look at that. Why? Where is this coming from? That's where the parents need to be awakened. They need to be open and receptive to this. So they're going through their own initiation, their own shifting. And then when the babies get here, it's like they get to, start further along the line, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I would imagine that they draw their specific parents to you so that
Mhm.
they can match up. Otherwise, they might get
Yeah.
put in someone random. We definitely would
Yeah.
not want
No.
that.
No, they do, and it's fascinating. My son, who is 31 years old now, he came to me as a spirit baby, and I was not supposed to have another child. And then this spirit baby showed up, and at that time, I've always been into the woo-woo, if you wanna call it that. I've always been interested in it. But that was a bit, more than I was expecting, and he showed up and he said, "Hi, I'm your baby, I'm coming." And I said, "Well, no, you're not." All of that. And he said, "Yes, I am. My name's Dylan." And, I always joke that he kinda said, "Suck it up, buttercup," like, "I'm coming." And you have to do whatever, it's gonna take. And then my life kind of got blown up, and I got
Wow.
transferred from one country to another country, and everything just changed. And he did come through.
Wow.
And I was guided to some work, including, meditation and Reiki and whatnot, as part of him coming through, and connected with one of my guides. And then it kind of circled all around when I was working with the fertility clients. And then with the pink starlights, I realized, because when he told me before he was coming, and then when he was little, when he was like 2, when he could talk, he would say, "I picked you, Mom." And I was at the light, and he would tell me little bits and pieces. Now these pink starlight babies, boy, they'll tell you. They remember, and they have a lot to say.
Wow. I wonder if so my daughter asked me when she was, I want to say 3, she said, "Mom, why did you wait so long to have me?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"How did you know?" You know? It's incredible. So I wanna touch on this clip that you sent, and you are talking to someone, a client, and
Mhm.
this is, from your show, so people can have an idea of what to expect. Because I know you have solo shows, but you also bring people in. So let's take a look at this clip.
One of the things is pink starlights, and in particular, your pink starlight. So you've had quite a journey. The show's called Journeys Within the Journey. What's it all about? And actually, I got that name from working with fertility clients, because people would start to say, "Well, I'm just my fertility, and I'm broken, and I'm infertility, and that's all I am." And I would say, "Well, no, this is a journey within the journey, and we have lots of journeys within the journey." And so that's basically was the inspiration for the show. So you have, my gosh, you have some amazing children.
And I think after my first time going through hypnosis with you, I said, "You know what's really strange?" Or it might have been my third session. I said, "Everything is pink. Everything in my visions that I see when I'm doing hypnosis is pink." And you said, "Oh, well, that's the babies. Like, that's love, and that's their color." And I had no idea about the books you had written about, or kind of your how you had channeled things from the pink starlights and this being a new species. And I did eventually read your books about the rainbow children, the crystal children, and now here's the pink starlights. And what was interesting is you kept asking me, though, over time, is your son saying anything? And for a long time it was no, no, and then he eventually did. And when I think back on it, because I did a lot of IVF and a lot of other fertility treatments, I think that it was the energy and the spiritual alignment that was the most important thing.
Wow, it was interesting that she was talking about the color pink, and that is that because of the pink starlight?
They do tend to put a lot of pink out there. And a lot of times someone will come in to see me for their first session, and they just happen to be wearing pink. Since I put out the book for them, people are more aware of them. They made me write a book. They made me get a show. And so it used to be people would come in and not know about them at all until they would come up in the sessions. But yes, And that particular client, it's just a fascinating show because her little son was 5 years old, and he just picked up all of these pink starlights and was telling her the information and the babies that were coming, and he knew them. And it was just incredible, the whole experience. And actually, my show is not specifically about infertility or about pink starlights, and part of that is because they wanted me to be able to include
Mhm.
more people too, so it's not just the fertility journey, but they do show up a lot, and a lot of it is that with, awakening light workers, or so people can understand that you can be like, "Yeah, I think my kid's a pink starlight." "Oh, yeah, yeah, I can see that."
So you made a good point. It's not just about fertility, your show. So what other kind of people do you have? What other topics do you touch on?
I've talked about people, or sorry, talked with people about their journeys. So one of the shows is about a lovely gentleman who teaches grief healing, and he goes through his journey with losing his daughter and with being in the particular practices that he has. He works with, I guess you could call it, Karo shamanism.
Oh.
I think I'm always kinda call them shamans, and they don't like to be called shamans, and that's because they're real shamans who don't call themselves shamans, right?
Oh, yeah.
I always make that joke, but yeah, he works in this really powerful grief field, he and his wife, and they have these retreats that they do. And so there's an interview with him and hearing about how that journey came and became and where it went, and there's hope. There's always hope. I have lots of different ones, hypnotherapists that have created things. Um, I've got one with a pink starlight baby in real time where the baby was basically saying, "I met the mom," and then the baby said, "Get her in and get her on the show."
Oh, wow.
And so I asked her and she said, "Okay." She was the lady that took the pictures for me for the show, actually.
Oh, nice.
The photographer, and totally mainstream, right? And then I'm like, "Okay, there's a baby that's, like, smacking me in the head, and I need to tell you this," and so it was really interesting. So we see this baby come through almost in real time.
Wow. Wow.
It's just incredible. So different shows, like that,
Mhm.
and how people are finding their journeys, healing on their journeys, and it might be about something specific,
Mhm.
or it might be how they learned and opened up to something or how something showed up. I've got a show about doing a life purpose regression for someone.
Mhm.
That I find really, really powerful because so many of us, we wanna know what our purpose is and
Yeah.
why are we
Hello.
here? And yeah, exactly. And we might be in our purpose or there might be something else. Again, it's like we don't necessarily just have one purpose.
Mhm.
So we go through explaining a life purpose, and I actually do the life purpose regression on the show. And then afterward, you get to see what she experienced and hear it from her in her words. So another thing I'm wanting to do is get an awareness of people's tools
Mhm.
that are out there or opportunities, things that you could do for your healing.
Well, I was actually gonna ask you that. So as people are on their journey to awakening, to wholeness, to just through life, what is one kind of simple practice or like a mindset shift that you think more people should sit with and embrace?
Just walking in nature, soaking in your bath, vacuuming or doing your dishes, take the sound off sometimes. Don't always have the TV on, the radio on, if there's radios anymore, um, the headsets, all of that kind of thing, podcasts, and have some quiet time. It doesn't have to be a lot. It can be just a couple of minutes,
Mhm.
but it actually says to spirit or says to the universe, "Okay, I'm here. I'm listening. What do you have for me?"
Mhm.
And then it's interesting because you might receive a sign or run into someone and something opens up, and this is guiding you on that journey and into the information that you actually want.
What do you think is one of the hardest things for people to I would say overcome or maybe practice to start to embark on when they're trying to get on this journey?
Well, sometimes I think doubting themselves that there's a reality to this. I always say reality in air quotes, and really starting to think sometimes, oh, this is crazy. Or, one of the things is not to talk to other people about it unless they're in sort of this realm, because then people will want to, oh, that's stupid, or oh, that's ridiculous, or what do you think you're doing. So tuning into the self and trusting your own intuition and heart and soul, it's actually your soul is driving this,
Mhm.
and not again falling into the 5 o'clock world, or we're nothing but this physical form. We're not. We
Mhm.
are, and we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Ooh, that is the truth. That is the truth, and we don't think about it that way. I have had we've all had our share of issues in life, and for women, I think part of our issue is we just are so judged by our appearance. And, you look at your body and it's never good enough, or your face or whatever. And then I had this thing happen, and it just shifted my mind around it. And instead of like judging myself by my body, I now have kind of a different take on it. It's like there's my spirit, my soul, and then my body. It's almost like my pet. So I have this like kind of ownership. I'm like, I take really good care of our dog. I'm like, here my body has just been trying to make me happy for all these years, and it's never been good enough. And so I need to realize that it's that what you're saying, we are spiritual beings. We're not the body, we're the spirit. And then the spirit I don't like when people call it meat suit, because I think
Yeah, no.
it's so much more than that. That's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a meat suit. No, this is our bodies. This is our vehicle that's taking us through this experience.
No, exactly. And it's important too to also say, yes, we're spirits having a human experience, but we are here for the human experience. So we're not supposed to be trying to, levitate and fly around.
But that seems like
We
so
are
much
in and
fun.
out. I know, can be fun for sure. I think Sai Baba had that down. But at the same time, we are humans. We're here for relationships. We're here for learning. We're here for the planet. We're here to, I do kinda like the school idea. I some people don't like it, but I do. I do feel like, because there's so much to learn and explore and experience, and one of the first things for some of us is getting out of that idea that all we are is a physical body.
Yeah, I like to think of it as, we're these spiritual diamonds, and we come back here just to carve another facet out, so that when we're done, we'll shine even brighter.
Ooh, I like that. That's good.
I have my moments now.
It's a good
So
one. Yeah,
so as we're
absolutely.
going through this life experience, what's one question that you think people should ask themselves more often, but they're not?
Well, we could go with the "Why am I here?" Um,
That's true.
that one, there's a line, I have to laugh, it's a song by Meatloaf, and he says, "Who am I? Why am I here? Forget the question, someone give me another beer." And sometimes, and that's actually what popped in my head when you said that, and I do hear that in my head sometimes, just to be connecting in with ourselves on every way. Am I taking care of myself? I like your analogy of treating your body kind of like a pet, or because we take really good care of our
Mhm.
pets or our friends or people, and not so much of ourselves. So really tuning in and asking, am I caring for myself? And self-care doesn't have to be massages and treatments and all of
Mhm.
that. It can just be taking a little rest. It can be deciding you wanna walk your dog instead of editing one more video, or whatever whatever else we might be doing.
Yeah, or you're just appreciating yourself.
Exactly, and waking up in the morning and just being like, "Wow, wow, I woke up and I like my bed, it's very comfortable." And, things like that, just little things like that, instead of just rushing through life. The journey, that's an important thing too, is a journey within the journey. It's not the destination. That's not the point.
Mhm.
Once we're done, we don't need to be here anymore. We get to the end, we're gone. So really being present and enjoying the journey and the journeys within the journey. And even if they're not fun, which sometimes they really are not, being as present as we can in them anyway.
Those are definitely sage words of advice. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Everybody, make sure you check out the journeys within the journey, whether it's hypnotherapy, energy, or spirit babies. You will find some fantastic information from a wonderful, wonderful person. Thank you again, Lindsay.
Oh, thanks so much for having me here. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, that's the kind of work we like to spotlight here, not because it has all the answers, but because it asks better questions that invite real engagement. If this conversation sparks something for you, you can explore more of Lynsi's work on New Reality TV. And if you're someone who's curious about consciousness, growth, and where personal responsibility actually meets spiritual exploration, this is what we do here. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.